Alrighty, here we go. Venture map community. Wow. I have been absent for far too long, and there's no excuse. There's no excuse. I I have reasons, but they all ultimately fall into this category. What I will tell you is what I will tell you is I am um and for the free community, something I really want to do with this free community, and I still do. That's why I've kept this thing for almost a year now. Venture Map Elite and Operator tiers to just establish a beachhead in those areas is because that's the main thing, right? That's if without those things being established, we're going to be hard pressed to have anything else. And I'll tell you, I've got a lot of perspective from the work that's been done on the ground with founders, with operations leaders. It's been enlightening. It's been and and I'll tell you what, we literally would not have a community here and on school without it. But I'll tell you one thing I've wanted since the beginning is for this not to just be a lead generator. There was a community that I joined early on, well over a year ago, in in my school journey, and it was a free community, and then there was a paid community, and I just felt like the free community was a bunch of spammy BS, to be honest. And I joined the paid community and I left the other one. I was like, man, it's just not it's not what I'm about. It just didn't really seem like there's quality in there. And the only reason it existed, this is what's more important. The only reason it existed was as a lead nurture, as a lead generator, nurture, and upsell machine. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just felt like it was a missed opportunity because when I realized that that was like the only reason it existed, I just I don't know, it felt hollowed out, because there was a level of trust and enthusiasm to the community who that will go nameless. I'm obviously not going to throw any shade. I learned a lot from that community and I appreciate it, but I just remember thinking, man, I want my free community to be different. And now we're in Q4, or we're in Q3 rather, and I'm excited because I get to stand on the foundation of what we've built, what I've built, and the community members and clients inside of the elite program have built. And I get to pass down a whole bunch of cool stuff. So, for example, one of the things that is actually going to be passed down for free is uh, a big selection of advanced training from the vault. This is stuff that I'm really proud of, and it's it's pretty exciting, and it's part of my promise to open source the framework and methodology to the community at large. So that's one thing. Another thing that is so close at hand is the most important, most valuable aspect of the venture map in the early days is what we call the growth plan. It can go by many uh, terms. It can kind of be language games at the end of the day. The high level strategic roadmap or planning horizon, these things that quantify and clarify our vision for the future and how to achieve it, whether we're running a organization or are a solo practitioner. Having a clear, definitive picture on our North Star and the major units of time and relevant milestones to get there is really important. So today is called the AI COO time, or AI, what is it? AI COO hour. And yeah, it should be live right now. Huh. That's a guess it's a good opportunity for me to practice. I always do this. Uh, there we go. AI COO hour. And this community is a basis for a lot to come. I'm going to be sharing not just the framework for the venture map, this behemoth, massive Miro thing, but we're going to actually go through the training. This is where I'm going to put all of the training. I'm not going to bottleneck or stage gate any of the actual training to get this done. Um, for the most part, there may be some things, of course, that I have to reserve and keep exclusive for the elite members and for our certified operators and operator clients. But as they always get early access to stuff. But I want to provide access to the things I wish I had 5 years ago, 6 years or longer, 10 years ago, when I was first starting off and just trying to figure out how things work and how to make things come together. And so we're we're gonna first of all we're gonna provide access to um, the growth planning capability set. This is something that is it's a big deal because for the last almost year, little under a year, we've brought in a couple cohorts of members, paid members into our VentureMap Elite community. And we flushed out for the first few batches, we flushed out their whole venture map, really aggressive, really labor intensive. And what we found, and we did it very quickly too, what we found is that the most valuable place to start is the growth plan because nothing's more relevant, nothing's more pressing to a founder, to an owner operator than their planning horizon, their strategic roadmap. I like to call that the critical path, things that you have to do today, this week, month, quarter, and year to stay on track with the big picture, the long-term vision. And that's what we spin off in the first days of their membership with the Venture App Elite community. And it's also part of our what's called a forever promise. And we're as a fractional COO, fractional integrator, uh, part of my reoccurring support is with quarterly planning and annual planning. So every member of the Venture App Elite community actually has support with a very efficient, very engaging, accurate, and effective quarterly planning process that's aligned with their big picture, 3 year picture and 1 year plan and all of that. So it's not just quarter to quarter, it's on a quarterly basis within an overall context of a longer planning horizon. But I've been thinking a lot, I've been praying a lot about it, and I want others on the outside to start to see what that's like with having to pay $100 for it. Even though, of course, you get a 30-day guarantee and whatnot. There's plenty of testimonials and case studies on people that have gotten tons of value out of the process and we've worked with for years now. but I want to share that on the front end. So every new member that joins the community is part of their onboarding is going to be to get that. So they're going to get a growth plan for their business, and we'll see if we can weave in smart rocks as well. I think that'll probably be pretty meaningful. I think we can pull off both without much trouble. And that'll be a good way to get them started in step one. And then step two, of course, is fleshing out your knowledge base, your culture, brand, and business architecture. Those knowledge bases are the foundation for your organization. They're the structure, the scaffolding, and infrastructure, and the incredibly valuable context that feeds generative AI, whether it's Claude, Gemini, Grok, or ChatGPT, or some other model. When you are prompting, when you are structuring automations and agentic workflows, you need to have solid tone of voice prompts, visual identity and brand style prompts, business model, environment, offer, and strategy context to provide to those models so you get higher quality, more refined outputs in a shorter period of time. That's what's important. That's the way we increase the qualitative aspects, where AI without that simply provides a quantitative benefit. It allows us to do more stuff. That's where people online talk about AI slop. It's just GPT junk. And we're never going to win in the age of AI if that's what we're putting out to. If we're contributing to the noise, we're never going to stand out. So from a moat perspective, we're building structured, high quality data lakes or repositories of proprietary intellectual property for our business that enables more effective execution by ourselves, our team, and perhaps most importantly, most advantageously, I could say, AI systems that we'll be implementing. So again, step one, growth plan. Step two, knowledge base. And step three, the behemoth is our experience. Man, I'll tell you, it's daunting. It's daunting as an individual who runs it from one business and for a number of clients at varying levels, just seeing a dozen, two, three dozen businesses mapped out like this and having that out on the page, but also in your brain is a lot. I get that. I I really appreciate it. I respect it. And I'm making all efforts to streamline that process. Just like we've made this growth planning process, we've been able to trim it down from um, what frankly used to be 2 weeks, maybe more, 2 weeks prior to the end of a quarter, 2 weeks after the end of a quarter to get the full strategic level and the operations level done. Now we've been able to leverage um, we've been able to apply our productization efforts to collapse that time down to a fraction. So in other words, to increase the operations efficiency on our side, so we can render that capability set um, as a free offer to the members of our community. So I'm really excited about that, establishing the anchor point. And the second thing is this weekly training rhythm. So I guess I'm in the experience lane now, but I'm kind of externally processing. A big a big piece of the venture map is where I like to talk about Iwo Jima or Normandy, the D-Day invasion of World War II, or Iwo Jima of the Pacific Theater Marine amphibious assault on the island of Iwo Jima against the Japanese. Both of them have things in common. For example, Any amphibious assault, any invasion for that matter, requires the first step, which is to gain a foothold. And the growth plan, getting a strategic roadmap or planning horizon, it is that fold. And it's an imperative um, for for users to start to see themselves in the board, for the business terrain that's visually depicted in the board to be personal and relevant to them, and to drive a level of agency that's meaningful. Agency in the sense that there's perceived level of power and control over one's circumstances. And that's what this is really all about. So we're all about building self-improving enterprises, and that's part human and part technology, part tool. So the foothold or the beachhead is that strategic roadmap. But if you actually look at it as a whole, what we're really doing is we're building out a knowledge base. And that knowledge base is um, much broader than just what's your 3-year revenue goals and what does your business look like in 3 years and 5 sentences. And what is your revenue and your profit by the end of the next year? And what metrics are you tracking? What's your goals for the quarter? Like, that's all really important stuff. But and it helps kind of get quick wins because it brings clarity, and um, it provides a quick sense for how this is going to go. For example, one of the things we're going to frame out in today's call is this idea of the AI COO. Um, and when we think of the AI COO, it's it's a kind of in one sense, it kind of not all the way, but it kind of feels like a buzzword. Um, and I don't I wish that wasn't the case, but as a dude who has been a COO, who has been an integrator for some time, I'm like, oh, dude, come on. But it is like part um a big frankly, the big positioning that I'm working to do right now is this AI fractional AI COO concept. Let's see, we're kind of making a jump. I'm going to build in parallel. What we've called historically, we basically have this growth map, or excuse me, the growth plan and the knowledge base. But what I think we're going to end up evolving into, because in one, knowledge base is like, great, why do I need a knowledge base? I got enough data as it is. It's AI brain. That's quite literally what it is. And this just becomes your entrance into that world. I think we're gonna provide some production credits to all the members of the free community. So that's like I'm stoked for that. I truly am, because what people pay us $1,000 a month for right now is basically production credits and lifetime for where I serve as an advisor and a coach, and in many ways on the lifetime, and then on the production credits on the async execution side as a operator. I'm producing, I'm executing, I'm doing the work. Um, and One of the big moves that we made earlier in the year was to say, you know what? Let's move production credits downstream. Let's give production credits to VentureMap Elite members, and we're going to be support them with doing stuff asynchronously, and then also giving them live time in a one-on-one capacity and in a group capacity. And that has been the mechanism of engagement has been awesome. It's been so awesome because the relationships that have come out of there, I really feel like I've made friends through there. There's respected colleagues that I love working with. I've learned so much from them. But I actually I look forward to the meetings. I look forward to the work because I love working with those people on their businesses, and just to have that harmonize like there's a harmonizing of efforts that is just the bee's knees as as it were. So but really what all of this organization stuff is, it is an AI brain. So I mean, if you put it that way, that's basically what it is. It's the brain of the business. Yeah, I mean that's probably right. I don't know if I like that name just because it feels overdone, but it's true. It's what it is. And then so I guess that's our that'll be what the first section will be. And we'll provide some production credits here. Execute on this. That's basically two production credits to get these things done. The deck, the video, the data, because there's an intake required and stuff like that. So we'll basically do a piece of all this, and then there will be training for the rest of it. So it'll all be part of the master class. Cool. Yeah, and then from there, the next big thing is, I mean, it truly is the operations side. I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's it's not even really like this sexy stuff. It's not like getting content, doing outbound, building funnels, implementing automations. That's all legit, but that's all built on top of an operations layer. The basis, the basis for the venture map is is two overlapping fields, two overlapping panes of color glass, you could call it. We have organization and we have operations. Let's see if I've got my trusty, right? This is what we're dealing with. So it really goes organization, operations, experience. When we have a foothold in both of these domains, then the experience can come to life a lot faster. It's one of those sharpen the axe type of things. This background layer here, this guy, this operations level, that's critical. Um, so we're going to walk through some of the how to do this. That's operations planning, bringing it down to task level, fleshing out personnel cards, holding a weekly rhythm, how to manage a sandbox. And we won't belabor you know, and overdo the the training over here, but that's how that's going to go. And maybe we'll do some special stuff like hosting some workshops to provide support and whatnot. But this is all stuff that in the Venture Map Elite community we have a renewed focus on. What we've realized is most founders, most operators, whether they run a company with team members or if they're solo practitioners, across the board, what we're seeing is they struggle with on an operations front with really two big things. One is that weekly rhythm, that weekly tempo. And that's what a COO brings. That's traditionally what an integrator would bring, is someone who has that structure. And they say, all right, guys, every single Tuesday, 1 p.m., we're showing up and we're running through the agenda. We're going to start with an icebreaker. We're going to do some team building. Then we're going to look back, do a review on the metrics, on our projects, identify highlights. We're going to look forward, build our task blocks, run through a dialogue to identify problems, discuss those issues and solve them, structure out our to-do lists, blast through blockers, and then we'll wrap up and part ways and then get to executing. That weekly tempo is oftentimes a missing piece because it's one thing to have a strategic roadmap that says, here's what we're going to do across 3 years, 1 year, 90 days. And our 90-day goals are smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. It's another thing to take the smart rocks or smart goals and turn those into operations plans. And of course, that's what we do for our Venture Map Elite members. We actually bring this all the way down to operations plan levels where we have clarity on tasks we have task level clarity, timeline level clarity. We have clarity where we can drop each task into a Kanban, into a Trello board. That's a big deal. But even that, it's still a departure from getting it done on a week-to-week basis. Having a 90-day massive operations plan, a project plan, or a key initiative that's detailed out, that's cool. But especially if you're a one-person show, that's overwhelming. So if work doesn't get done at a project plan quarterly level, work gets done at a daily level, and we'll get to that in a second. But really, the last kind of frontier of management and operations kind of goes at that weekly, like the strategic level is really, it's most crucial at that weekly level. And from there, it's kind of like, to use a military analogy, you're kind of handing it off to the team, even if you are that team member, right? It's basically there's your target, and the team has to flip the safety off and pull the trigger. You have to be there's actual execution that occurs at some point. But the weekly rhythm, regardless, is so critical, and it's oftentimes a missing element. So we're hosting a really cool virtual, decentralized weekly rhythm session, a weekly planning session that takes everything I've learned over the last 10 plus years of being a second in command, an operations leader, a fractional integrator, and business owner, delivering that to the community. So I'm really excited about that to solve that need, and building out this AI COO platform for small business owners. So that'll be something that we'll be doing in the elite community. And then the second is actual execution. And that's where stuff actually gets done. So we'll be doing deep work sessions for that in the elite community as well. And we'll talk about all of that in the free community. I'll provide resources. You definitely don't need to be in Venture Map Elite to do a weekly planning session or deep work like body doubling or virtual co-working. I mean, it certainly helps if you're connected with the other members and you're aligned with the methodology. But none of that is like super novel, right? Deep work, monotasking, consistent focus and execution, a structured weekly rhythm for operations. All that is built on best practice. There's first principles that are underpinning all of that. What I've done is just kind of weave, stitch it all together and make it make sense. So that'll be the second zone we'll focus in. First is our AI brain. Second will basically be focused. It's like an operations. It's like focus execution, consistent focus. It's focus and execution. Focus, it's basically like focused execution. It's operations, right? Because no AI system is ever going to get built if you're not showing up and executing regularly. I know that AI brain kind of is cute and catchy for marketing terms, but I feel so cringe. It's cringy. Obviously, we use the knowledge bases with our work, large language models, and it's when we're building out workflows. But it is a data lake. It is a set of knowledge bases. It's an organizational structure. That seems about right. And then we get to focus on what will be, I guess this is the sexy part. This is the part that's a lot of fun. And it's our experience lane. This is the overlapping field between organization and operations. This is our 10 phases of customer and employee experience. This is where we have traffic that drives into top of funnel, where we generate leads, nurture them through mid funnel, and close or convert them in our sales process. From there, we move over to post-purchase. This is where we're fulfilling on our promises made in the acquisition systems and our value proposition. And we are believers in the Coleman methodology. Joey Coleman, the author behind Never Lose a Customer Again, Never Lose an Employee Again. Great book. His framework is just the chef's kiss. It's superb. The most meaningful contribution to lifecycle marketing I've ever come across. It's just should be required reading for entrepreneurs, in my view. So the following phases in post-purchase are all pulling from that methodology: affirm, activate, acclimate, accomplish, adopt, and advocate. Just how to think of this: basically, affirm is the moments immediately after purchase, where we surprise and delight the user or team member if it's recruiting, and trigger a dopamine spike and overcome any potential buyer's remorse. From there, we begin our onboarding formally through activation and warm up into the acclimate stage, getting them familiar and used to it. If you have a venture map template and you're like, what the heck, I've actually put in Coleman's implementation PDF and positioned them here for CX, customer experience, and here for EX, just for everybody's benefit. Of course, the red lane is EX, employee experience down here, and everything up here is customer experience. Yours may look a little bit different if it's blank, but it's still the same architecture underneath. Once you've acclimated, then we move into accomplish. This is actually the customer success system. This is where we're achieving the impact we've promised. We facilitated the transition, and where we'll start working to um, reinforce the habits, the behaviors um, built by our end users, inspire and support their adoption of our brand identity of who we are, weaving into our culture and becoming an advocate. There's also cross-sell, upsell. There's a retention element to that. There's a referral and testimonial and case study element as well. And that's where all of that happens back here. We implement a few different things within the phases. We implement functional areas. Functional areas are really important to understand because they cross map to our organization charts. We can say this role is responsible for this functional area. Functional areas also cross map to processes and SOPs, which cross map to roles. Again, we can say this is the functional area which has these touch points with the customer journey, but it also has these processes and these SOPs. These things are being done at these steps in the customer journey, and we can show those. We use service blueprinting to visually depict the levels of interaction at every stage of the experience. So we can see what the physical evidence is. In other words, the collateral or the artifact of that moment in time. Really, experience here is within a temporal axis. It's across time. The units of time can be short, they can be long. We've created a uniform width that just to keep it visually coherent, but these are it indicates progression. There's little tricks of the trade that we'll implement. For example, we'll do jump points. When we get really advanced into the training, we'll talk about jump points. But that kind of avoids a million wires going in different directions. But service blueprinting is critical, especially for businesses with multiple service verticals, with certain lines of business, because we have to know what the customer action is, what artifact or physical evidence they're interacting with, whether it's physical or virtual. We have to understand what the front stage staff action is, what we're doing to interact and interface with the customer, if at all, what we're doing backstage, and what support processes are present. And that's where we will then heat map and emphasize opportunities for AI implementation. This is an area where we say, can we automate these things? And from there, that's sort of that's where the concept of the Z plane really comes in to its own when we have like that level of maturity across an organization, when we have that level of maturity, if the fundamentals are down to that level from an organization and operations standpoint, where we can see our full experience across those levels of interaction. We have functional areas defined. Everyone's on a solid rhythm, and the key leaders have an async capability, so they can take in information and provide meaningful input, meaningful and timely input asynchronously in between live, um, weekly rhythms and workshops and stuff. Then it's like, okay, now we're getting really dangerous as a group. Then we will sort of pour fuel on the fire in what we would call a a custom implementation project or we'll work on bespoke solutions, right? It's all the fancy consulting terms, but it's like, okay, now we need to build automations for this. We know exactly what we're doing. Now we have to productize it and we have to automate or hire into it. And that is the deeper level where we'll basically say we have to do hiring rounds. Our employee experience is mapped out through recruiting and retention. That integrates with our target state org chart. We could say we want to hire these roles, which merges into our hiring plan and roles and responsibilities and functional areas and SOPs and all of that stuff is integrated. That's why the job of a COO is also known as that of an integrator. I put all this together for a sanity keeper for myself and as a way to work better with the CEOs I've served and the teams I've served. And what I found over the years is that it's actually really helpful to other operations professionals just to have the ability to get everything into one place coherently. It took a long time to get to this level. We are so far away from perfect, but after 5 years, we've got a pretty solid and reliable framework. It's pretty resilient across different use cases, and a methodology to flush it out is pretty reliable and it delivers predictable results. So I would imagine by this time next year, we'll be way farther ahead in terms of simplicity, clarification, and effectiveness of both of those things, the framework and methodology to fill it out. But as of today, we're pretty far along, and it's just a gift from God that this is still alive and still moving forward. It's the something like living your dream, to be honest. So that being said, the third element, I guess, of the plan is experience design. Man, my father, if you don't know, is a ex-Disney Imagineer. He spent over 22 years in Disney, over 30 in the themed entertainment industry. Is a legend in his own right, and his methodology. He's got a few, but his core methodology is the narrative experience design and weaving in story into and brand together for world-class audience experiences. And it's so coming from that line of thinking, I would say I am hesitant to categorize what we do here in that same vein as he's certainly king of the castle in that regard with regard to narrative experience design. So traditionally, we have called this the experience lane. I don't see any reason why not to call it that. It is what it is. It's customer experience and employee experience. But I think the ecosystem element, it's true. It is an ecosystem, and to think of it in those terms is probably helpful because what it really comes down to is we have acquisition and fulfillment for CX. We have recruitment and retention for EX. We've got phases through each of them, right? Each of those things have systems. So we have different systems that relate to different phases. Within each phase, we have functional areas or areas of responsibility. Within each area of responsibility, we have nodes. These nodes are uh, they visually depict levels of interaction. So it's not just Buddy is clicking on the website page. It's Here's the website page. Buddy is doing this action with it. We are not doing anything front stage with Buddy. We're not doing anything backstage, but support processes. The CRM has an automation that's triggered upon opt-in that adds the user to our opportunity pipeline for the free community and sends them the welcome campaign, right? And then it's the next two steps down the line. There's another trigger that adds a to-do to our front stage staff, to the staff member to reach out directly. So there's a front stage staff action and a customer action, which is receive the message and respond or view it, right? So it really is an ecosystem. And I think blueprinting feels right. It sounds right. It seems right. And yeah, I'd be really curious what you'd think, whether ecosystem blueprint or strategy execution. Something we said for a year. Um, I'm leaning into strategy execution, even though I really like this ecosystem blueprint concept. I'm gonna save that. That's, that's that organizational structure, operational excellence, excellence, and strategy execution. I'm just kind of in a workflow now, but it's basically everything we just covered. It's like project plans, going to weekly rhythm. Hmm. Hmm. Quarterly plans, weekly rhythm, and daily monotasking, daily tasks, and day plans. Yeah, that's about it. And then strategy execution. That's the tough one, man. I would say that when we're starting, it's most helpful to identify the actions that the customer is taking first. And I believe that's true. It's been proven to be the best way to get started because it's the way that allows us to have something to anchor into. Um, from there, it's a great place to add service design, but I like ecosystem blueprint. Yep, that's basically what we're going to work on. I don't know about the term on the last one, but it seems like it's as close as we're going to get. I think we're pretty solid. Let's see, where is that? Shapes and lines. Hmm. This is a moment in time that I definitely miss my old colleague Jack. For whatever reason, I just cannot recall. I know that there's like this weird second thing in here. It's not in prototyping. Yeah, it is. I know it. Yeah, robot. There we go. All right, so that's what we're going to be working on in the free community in the next couple of quarters, I guess. Should be a lot of fun. So, in summary, let's see, we're gonna put in uh, done with you support here. So you get production credits. And then there's also going to be training. So that's how that will break down. So that's within this organizational structure. You're going to get you're going to get back up on producing your culture deliverables. Boop, 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 boop. And then we'll move in from there. You'll get training on brand style, business architecture, which is there's a lot to go through there. Uh, we'll look at 90-day plans, weekly rhythm, daily tasks, customer journey, ecosystem blueprint. Ooh, that's going to be a big one. And AI systems building. Big, 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 big stuff. There's going to be training for all of this. I'm stoked. I'm like daunted a little bit, but I'm excited because I was daunting last year when we started this. We made a lot of progress, and it's been super rewarding. It's taught me a lot, and it's time to keep living according to what I've believed for a while, which is we need to pass value downstream. And just because it's like what we're learning in our $10,000 engagements, we pass those learnings down into our $1,000 engagements. And the things that we're learning in our $1,000 a month engagements, we pass down into our $100 a month engagements. And now it's time, really thankful, by the grace of God, we get the freedom and the time to allocate into passing what we've learned in our $100 engagements, a month engagements, down to our free engagements and with the venture map community and everything that's come before that. that's cascaded into it. So we're going to cover that. And there's going to be, I believe we're going to launch a venture map operator certification that will basically allow you to um, build a career doing this type of work for business owners. We've locked into a pretty solid framework that is compelling, and I think it's going to stand the test of time for where things are going with AI. So, and emerging technology as a whole. So stay tuned for that. Basically, I think it's going to look um, like is once when people join VentureMap Elite, they basically are getting done for you support, and they're basically getting support in all of this. Um, done for you support. This is basically live time. Done with you support lifetime. I mean, and if you think about done with you support, uh, let's just not mince words. It's basically a group call, daily tasks. Those are deep work, group Q&A, weekly rhythm, weekly planning sessions, group Q&A, group Q&A. These are our coffee hours. We get really to discuss this stuff. So for VentureMap Elite, VentureMap free, yeah, VentureMap freeze gets that. And then if we're taking to, and that's, I guess I could add VME in there, but this is probably a few deeper, more advanced things in the culture land that aren't gonna really come all the way through. Um, and then VentureMap operator. Let's see. It's like hands-on implementation. Hands-on implementation. Hands-on. You can say the same thing all the way through, just for shorthand. Same thing goes for all the way through. That's pretty much how that goes. So we can look at the value ladder next time, but my hope is that we cover in the free community is going to far surpass what many paid communities and courses will deliver. And the next one, we'll get into what we didn't get time to do today, which is the role of a COO. And we'll talk about that. We'll do the T model for skills. We'll talk about high leverage skills and how the fractional model makes a lot of sense. And then we'll talk about why the COO is the transitional archetype for the self-optimizing enterprise. It's the most obvious space to begin optimizing or and implementing AI systems. So we'll talk about that, why the AI COO is inevitable. So that'll be pretty exciting. The entire community is moving into that AI COO space. So there'll be a few new things coming in that domain soon. Thank you all for being a part, being the best part of the VentureMap community. Really appreciate all 82 of you in here. And, you guys are the OGs, you're the originals. And I appreciate you guys. I think we've got a lot to come in the future. And I'm looking forward to that. Until then, if you've got questions, comments, concerns, you want to jump on the line, every member in the group gets a onboarding call. This isn't just an opportunity to upsell. This is an opportunity to connect. As an individual integrator, as an operations leader, I use this as a way to screenline good fits for higher echelons of support where we can do great work together, but also a way to just help collapse the learning curve down for you using asynchronous visual collaboration tools or generative AI tools, or just like the best practice to get things organized and get things done. It's always great to connect with other like-minded people, and that's what the one-on-one onboarding calls are really for. So I appreciate you. I'll be doing these weekly sessions now moving forward, and I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully in the next one. Until then, take care, and Logan out.